Begin by telling me, what is the Pennsylvania Association for Sustainable Agriculture?
Our association is a membership association of farmers and other people that are interested in agriculture around the state of Pennsylvania. We have about 3,500 members, which makes us one of the largest organizations of this type in the country. And our claim to fame really is that every February we have a conference that attracts people from all over the country right here at the Penn Stater Conference Center. It's the largest conference of the year there, in fact. We lately have been attracting about 1,500 people from as many as 30 states.
And what kind of information are people seeking?
Well, they're all very enthusiastic about farming, and it's a relatively young crowd, which is unusual for a farming gathering. And so they're looking for information about how to farm in a different way, how to manage their land and their crops and their animals in a way that is good for the health of those crops and those animals, but also in a way that produces high quality food for their customers.
You recently wrote an op-ed that appeared in our local newspaper, and you said despite the fact that family farms are disappearing and that costs are rising and to some extent markets are unstable, you say there has never been a better time to be a farmer.
Well, and of course I'm really talking about there being at least two different ways to farm. And the old theory, which most conventional farmers still operate according to, is that you reduce costs as much as you can and increase production to the greatest level possible, and in that way you maximize your profits. But unfortunately, the competitive environment in which farmers operate in now, including overseas production, makes it very hard to reduce costs enough or to produce enough product in order to remain profitable. So what I'm saying is that there is tremendous new interest among consumers in being connected to the sources of their food, to knowing where the food comes from, even to knowing the farmer. And every survey across the country that's been done to look at consumer preferences has found that they are willing to pay more money for food when they know where it's been produced, how, and when they have an opportunity to know the farmer.
With rising automobile or with rising gasoline prices, my guess is getting people to buy locally is a more important thing today than it's ever been.
Well, the prices probably haven't gone up as far as they might in the future for gasoline, but certainly it puts a big dent in the food market when you consider that research at Iowa State University has shown that on average food travels 1,500 miles from where it's grown to where it's consumed. Now eventually higher gas prices will have to have an impact on the cost of food from that perspective. So, but it's not just a price conscious thing. Consumers really are at least as concerned about their health, the health of their families today, as they are about the costs of gasoline or the cost of the food.
And we're talking about getting food from point A to point B. There's also the time and the nutrition lost in the time that it takes to get it there.
There's nutrition lost, and that starts as soon as food has been harvested. But even a larger factor is that the varieties that are planted today have been selected in order to improve shelf life, improve transportability, and research is beginning to show that these varieties, which are quote-unquote improved, actually have less nutritional content.
And are we finding that local producers are using old seeds?
Well,
when I say old seeds, I'm talking about not the new hybrids.
You can get heritage breeds of animals and of plants from local farmers, but they, even if it isn't an heirloom variety, for instance, the farmers are free to choose varieties that have better taste and probably better nutrition because they don't have to worry about having the product trucked across the country.
PASA really is looking at two different emerging trends. One is looking as addressing consumers' wants. They're interested in safe and nutritious foods. And then on the growers' side, there's an increased interest in finding creative channels or outlets for their products. Talk about some of the things you're doing, local food networks and those sorts of things.
Well, first of all, just to understand the underlying theory there, on average, farmers that farm conventionally receive about 19 cents of every consumer dollar for what they produce. And so farmers that are looking at this a different way are starting to think, how can I get more than 19 cents out of the dollar? It's often said, and I've seen the figure that, that the sports figure that appears on the cover of a Wheaties box, for instance, makes more money per box than the farmer who produced the food that's inside. So the whole challenge for farmers is, how can I improve that ratio? And so they're looking constantly for new avenues locally to get food more directly to consumer. We're not trying to eliminate middlemen altogether. But if a farmer can sell directly to a restaurant that's local, and that restaurant sells to local customers, that cuts the amount of money down that has to go to marketing and transportation. If they create a CSA or a subscription type of farm where consumers pay the farmer up front at the beginning of the year for a share of the crop later.
And they pick up a basket every week of
They pick up a
produce?
basket every week. They get what's in season, so through a season they also get a tremendous variety, which is another health factor. Farmers are willing to do almost anything to short circuit that connection between themselves and the consumers of the food.
There are currently some 59,000 farm families in Pennsylvania, and we're talking about $7.7 million or 7.7 million acres of farmland in Pennsylvania. In your opinion, why is it important to save Pennsylvania farmland, and how can that be accomplished?
Well, many people, when they talk about saving farmland, they're really thinking in the back of their minds, they're thinking about how much they like the open space. They like to take a drive through the country. They like to see beautiful pastures and fields and everything well kept, and they'd love to have it that way. In fact, they'd love to buy a piece of it and put their house there. So the reasons that most people want to preserve farmland end up actually destroying the farmland. What I would be more concerned about, and urge everybody who thinks about these things to consider, is the fact that we don't want a situation to develop where we cannot get food locally. I mean, that becomes a food security issue, and not an issue because of potential terrorism or something like that. It's simply a matter, what if we could no longer transport food for whatever reason? Gasoline is so expensive or non-existent, or some other problem comes up. We need a local base of food production in every community, and I do mean large communities, even like Philadelphia and Pittsburgh.
Mm-hmm. And on that note, we're out of time. Thanks so much for talking with us.
Sure, thank you.
A copy of the program you've just seen can be purchased through Penn State Media Sales at mediasales.psu.edu or by calling 800-770-2111.